This is the second of four presentations on the language of diversity, equity, and inclusion. In this presentation, we'll examine the term diversity. The definition that we are using for diversity comes out of the One Virginia Plan, which is the state's strategic plan for inclusion. As you can see, diversity covers a really broad range of different characteristics that are associated with people. All of the different characteristics that make people people are important and far exceed what can be covered in a single course. This class will focus on 7 different populations. Each at various times in our history has been subjected to discrimination, exclusion, and inequity based on public policy. We want to understand these issues better in order to dismantle the inequities of the past and promote fairness going forward. Even by narrowing our focus to 7 groups, this is far more than can be covered in a single course. Each population listed is a full field of study unto itself. Thus, our work is only intended to be foundational, leading us to further inquiry. So, how diverse is the United States? Fortunately, the 2020 census has been recently completed, and we have an up-to-date snapshot of the diversity in our country. The variations across the country are great. While the country remains very white, 58%, the individual states tell different stories. California is 39% Latinx and 35% white. The District of Columbia is 39% African American and 38% white. The white population is less than half of the population in 7 states. However, there are 10 states where 80% or more of the population is white. Knowing the population that a government serves is important. A goal of DEI programs is to create organizations that look like the populations that they serve so that they can effectively understand and meet the needs of that population. Below is a link to the Census Bureau. Take a few moments after watching this presentation and explore the composition of the country, the state where you live, and the county where you reside. Virginia has a white population that is approximately the same percentage as the United States. Virginia's African American population is slightly larger than the country as a whole, yet the Latinx population is significantly smaller. Women make up slightly more than half of the population in Virginia and the United States. In Hampton Roads, the home of Old Dominion University, the white population is smaller than the Commonwealth's, and the African American population is larger. The Latinx population in Hampton Roads is significantly smaller than the population in the U.S. and even smaller than that of Virginia. People who have disabilities can be of any race or culture. Over a quarter of the adult population in the U.S. has some type of disability. Like race, a disability can be a condition into which a person is born. Unlike race, a person can become disabled at any point in their lives. As mentioned earlier, no population grouping is homogeneous. This is certainly true of people with disabilities, each of which is experienced differently. The most prevalent disability relates to mobility, followed by cognition. Just as a person can be of more than one race, someone can also have more than one disability. About 6% of the adult population in the U.S. identifies as part of the LGBTQ+ community, a population larger than that of the indigenous people of this country and those who identify as Asian. LGBTQ plus is a broad grouping that includes at least 5, and certainly more, distinct populations. Someone who identifies with this community may be of any race or culture and may have one or more disabilities. It appears dramatic that only 1.3% of traditionalists identified as LGBTQ, rising to 16% of Generation Z. This does not mean necessarily, however, that only 1.3% of the traditionalists were LGBTQ. Historically, people identified as part of this community were stigmatized and faced significant discrimination. Disclosing one's sexual orientation created great risk. My high school English teacher was born late in the traditionalist generation, and he was an important mentor to me. He was gay, something he never disclosed to me or to many others. Had he been exposed, he would have been fired from the public schools. He had to live his life hiding who he really was. Only in recent years has the social construct around sexual orientation evolved to the point where some people at least feel comfortable in living their true lives. Yet many barriers to inclusion remain and discrimination continues. One of the more interesting developments is the increasing number of people who identify as bisexual. What does this term really mean? What are the implications for public management and for public policy? Before we go from diversity to inclusion, let's first look at the concept known as intersectionality. In the section below, you will find material that helps us explore this important concept that is central to understanding diversity, equity, and inclusion.